We often assume successful businesses grow in a clean, straight line. The messy reality is usually a chaos of raw ideas and broken drafts. That false assumption is exactly why standard corporate timelines fail to hold our attention. Mechanically reading off a list of dates and milestones doesn't provide the context necessary to understand why those events mattered. To actually understand the growth, we need a filter. Take a look at this model. We start with a chaotic scatterplot of unconnected data points and watch as it collapses into a structured chronological timeline divided into distinct, readable phases. Raw data by itself is just noise. Applying a clear structure forces those isolated events into a coherent narrative with actual stakes. Instead of starting with an official launch date, we have to look at the room where the work actually began. Founders operate in tight spaces. They deal with limited resources, severe environmental constraints, and immediate market pressures long before they see a hint of success. Operating under that specific friction builds a rigid discipline. It creates a foundational mindset that dictates how those leaders will make decisions years down the line. Once we understand that early discipline, a cold corporate logo becomes a group of people navigating hard choices. We understand what they have to lose before the real growth even begins. Then comes the push outward. The operation shifts from a localized workshop to a massive physical network, moving goods and scaling up. Sudden scale doesn't happen by accident. It is the direct result of highly specific choices regarding pricing structures, strategic partnerships, and aggressive market positioning. This flowchart illustrates the precise indicators of early product-market fit. One product funnel expands into 3 distinct distribution channels, outpacing parallel competitor lines. These choices translate into mechanical advantage. The expanding channels light up rapidly, pushing the competing lines entirely out of the frame. Real traction is exactly that. It is the mechanical outcome of taking early momentum and applying deliberate, measurable competitive positioning. Eventually, every scaling operation hits a wall. They face intense regulatory scrutiny, a sudden public relations crisis, or a massive financial risk. This friction removes the safety net. It turns a straightforward upward trajectory into a high-stakes test of executive judgment. If we look at this Venn diagram, we can see the exact point of tension. An expanding circle of external pressures collides with a stable circle of internal assets. The overlapping zone, right in the middle, is the strategic edge. Inside that overlapping zone, leaders have to react. They decide whether to adapt, reinvent the core product, or simply hesitate. Peacetime growth tells us little about a company's resilience. Their actual value is revealed by how they wield their strategic edge to survive the collision. Fast forward to the present day. The surviving entity operates at a completely different scale, functioning as a massive, systemic force in the market. At this level, the business is no longer just a company. It is a network that touches millions of points across the map every single day. Because of that reach, their internal decisions regarding logistics or pricing become the baseline that every other competitor in the industry is forced to match. By tracking these ripples across the market, we see that the story is no longer about profit margins. It's about how a single entity's growth becomes woven into the way a society functions. We can step back from the specific timeline and extract usable patterns from the journey. This cyclical network model maps out the winning strategy. Notice how the solid central core pulses and remains protected, while occasionally branching out to form new perimeter nodes. It illustrates the exact balance of protecting a core product while knowing when to experiment. The divide between a forgotten failure and a lasting success comes down to a capacity to identify when a market's underlying mechanics have shifted, and then adjusting the business model to fit that new reality. Raw milestones are useless without structure. The true power of storytelling in business is the ability to distill chaos into a repeatable blueprint for survival and continued relevance.